Yep, it's already started.
Perfect. Oh goodness, the transcription. So I guess we can jump right into it. It's 2:31, and I mean, if anyone's a little bit late, we are recording, so they'll be able to catch this later on. So I'm Madeline O'Brien. I am the current president of the Cape Breton University Students Union. A little bit of background information about myself. I'm a Bachelor of Arts Political Science student here at Cape Breton University. I'm the captain of the varsity track and field team. And I'm also completing this job tomorrow as of about 5 p.m. And I will be heading off to work on Parliament Hill as Mike Kellaway's parliamentary assistant. And taking over my job will be this guy.
Hi, everyone. I'm Logan Collins. I'm the incoming president of the Students Union and current executive vice president of the Student Union. I'm in my last year of the math program. I'm graduating this spring. I'm in the honors program, and I'm looking at doing research in climate.
And we also have our CRO here that is going to be running this election. So I'll give Mark the opportunity to introduce himself as well.
Okay, hello everyone. I hope I'm not too zoomed in. This camera is very zoomed in. I'll back away a little bit. There we go. Hi everyone. My name is Mark Campbell. I'm the Chief Returning Officer at the Cape Breton University Students Union. I am in my 4th year of the Bachelor of Business Administration program. I'm majoring in accounting and human resources. I was a part of the Student Union since September, since we ran our last by-election. And I'm looking forward to seeing a lot of names on some nomination forms here. I understand we have a lot of interest for the election this year. So I'm glad to see the interest. I'm happy you guys are here. And I hope you guys take a lot away from today.
Awesome. So to go back around a circle, just for the purpose of the election and why you're here, we're going to talk a little bit about what our roles entail. And then after Logan and I talk a little bit, we'll go back to Mark, and Mark can talk about how his role will interact with all of you in the election. So, as president, you have a lot of responsibilities. I'm not even sure where to start, but I guess I'll start with signing authority. So, any checks in or out of the Students Union require your signature most of the time, unless like there are 2 others, the VP Finance, as well as the Director of Finance who can sign, but preferably every check that goes in and out will have your signature and approval, just so that you can keep on top of the finances that are happening as things unfold. You also chair the executive committee. So every 2 weeks, you will be chairing a meeting. And at this meeting, you kind of approve any purchases that exceed $1,000. You also discuss any employment matters that are happening within the Students Union, any other pertinent updates, such as things that you are working on. And you also set the agenda for the Students Representative Council meeting every 2nd meeting. So at the Students Representative Council, you are a sitting member of said council where you provide a report about everything you have done for the past month, and this council sits monthly. So you're kind of constantly writing a report as the president. So you're writing a quarterly report for the Board of Governors, which is usually a bit long. So say like 5 to 8 pages long for this report. And then you're also writing 2 to 3 page monthly reports. So there's a lot of writing involved. You're also answering a whole lot of emails. I would say if I had to guess, I probably get anywhere between 80 to 100 emails every week. And you have to be on the ball to answer these quickly and professionally. Some of the other things include attending all of the Students Union events that are happening. And this is really just touching the surface. We're going to get into it a little bit more with a nice PowerPoint later. So, Logan?
Yeah. So some of the responsibilities of the executive vice president are similar, but the executive vice president handles academic matters, so matters of student academics in the university. So the EVP is the president's alternate, so it's the next position in the line of succession. It's an elected position, obviously. So the EVP has a big role in the university senate. So this is where academic policies and issues like academic integrity policy come up. They also appoint students to Senate subcommittees, and basically it's the role that will get the emails. Hi, how do I submit, say, a grade appeal? How do I do this? How do I ensure I'm being represented fairly to the student union or to the university? The EVP also supervises the centers. So at the CBU Students Union, we have a multicultural hub, a Pride and Ally Center, a Women's Center, and an Indigenous Liaison Office. So the EVP is in charge of making sure that that is running smoothly and efficiently. And same as Madeline said, as an executive, you're constantly writing things like reports. So I have been giving the Senate report, giving reports to the Student Representative Council, among other things. So yeah, that's the EVP role in a nutshell.
Yeah, Mark, do you want to talk a little bit about what the CRO does through the election and in what capacity you'll be interacting with the candidates?
Yeah, certainly. So basically what my role is that I manage all aspects of the student union general election. So basically when the nominations for president and vice president positions open, I will be hosting a meeting with you to determine your eligibility and walking you through the nomination process. If you are successfully nominated, you will then move on to campaigns. So I will be managing aspects of the campaign as well, just to make sure everything's being done properly. I will be in communication or in contact with each candidate just to make sure everything's going well, everything's going smoothly. And also, once campaigns end, I will be overlooking the, not overlooking, what's the word? Overseeing, there you go, overseeing the actual polling dates. So the polling date or the polling is done virtually through a software known as Simply Voting, which will basically send an email out to voters at CBU, and they will cast a ballot deciding who they want to represent them as their vice president or president. So yeah, it's basically my role in a nutshell. If you do choose to cast in your candidacy for president, you will be hearing a lot from me. But if you have any questions about the process, definitely relay them onto me. I'll try to answer your questions as best I can. And for questions that you may have for Madeline or Logan, definitely don't hesitate to reach out to them either.
Awesome. So for a little bit more background information, I'm going to talk for 2 minutes max about how the Students Union functions and what your role is in that sense. And then Logan is going to talk about the structure of the university and how the two roles function within the university. So the Students Union, the boss of the Students Union is the entire student body. So if you're thinking of the Students Union in form of a pyramid, students are at the top. So everything that we do reports to students. Students bring us a concern, we handle it. Essentially, you just don't come in this office to go rogue, you do what students tell you to do. Then next up is the Student Representative Council. So this is an elected body as well, which these seats are also open for the running starting on Monday with the nominations. So the Student Representative Council has representatives from each school for diverse backgrounds as well. So there's international student seats, Indigenous student seats, varsity athletics student seats, resident seats, etc. So there's a variety of students, and I believe the council holds between 20 to 30 students at any given time throughout the year, and the entire executive also sits on this board. So then after the council, it's the president's role. So you report directly to the council with your generally monthly report. This is what you talk about, what you're doing, and then they vote on your report. So they can either accept it or basically reject your report, and that's kind of a slap on the wrist. Also, if you go outside of the boundaries of your job, or if they don't like the performance you're putting in, the Student Representative Council can also say, okay, you're out, and then you've been removed from your position. Underneath the president, you have the three vice presidents. You have the executive vice president promotions, and the vice president finance and operations. So this group all works collaboratively to manage their respective areas, be it finance, academics, promotions. It all falls under that umbrella. And then I don't know exactly where to put the full-time staff on this pyramid, but they are, listen to them, basically. I don't know how else to put that. They are open books of knowledge about everything you could ever possibly want to know about the Students Union. You can name any policy, they always know. They are the backbone of the Students Union. Like, it literally would not be able to function without Don and Alex, and they're both in the chat. So, like, round of applause to Don and Alex for keeping this organization running.
Literally.
Yeah. And then underneath the executives would be the coordinators. So this is a hired position. There's somewhere between 15 to 20 coordinators throughout the academic year. So most start late August, early September, and these would be your people like your food bank coordinators, the Indigenous Liaison Office, Women's Center, Pride and Ally Center, etc. And they all report directly to an executive or a full-time staff member. And that's kind of where they get their tasks from. They run their events. They just have to have them approved through the executives. So that's kind of the running order of how the Students Union works.
Great. So I guess I'll kind of chat a bit about how the university works and how we interact with them. So in the university, there's a board of governors. They're basically the board of directors there at the basically at the highest authority that the university has. So there's an executive board of governors where they set the agenda, and they so obviously the President Dingwall would sit on that. Their VP Finance, their VP Academic. We also have Madeline would sit on that as president. She'd sit on the executive for board of governors. And board of governors is where long-term goals would be set for the university, and things like that. So in addition to that, in the general board of governors, as president and vice president, you're sitting on those committees, as well as the VP Finance and the VP Promotions also have a seat on this board of governors. And the president will give a report, as Madeline mentioned. And then, as I mentioned, there's also the Senate. The Senate, as I said, handles the academics of the university. There are 9 student senators on the Senate. 4 of them are executive, and then as president, the president will appoint the 5 others. So that's kind of how the university is structured. Then there's the executive of the university, which includes President Dingwall, who we have close contact with. And then there's also the staff of the university. So we have probably the staff that we speak with the most would be the Director of Student Affairs, as they have a hand in pretty much everything that we do, and we work in collaboration. For example, we have a group where we meet and talk about different intakes of students and the issues that they're facing, and housing. So we all kind of work in synchronization with the university to ensure that students' needs are met.
Perfect. So now we can jump onto the PowerPoint. I know I don't have it set up to be able to share from my computer, but I did email it to you like 5 minutes ago.
Okay.
You want to
give me a moment. I'm okay. I guess I should download it to my computer. There we go. Okay. let me know if you can see that. You see that?
It just disappeared.
Oh, did it? Okay, give me one moment. I think this is my first time actually sharing something, so there we go. Is that right?
We can just leave it like that. That's fine. It seems to be the way that
Okay.
it works.
All right. Okay. So actually, can I just go from beginning? There we go. Is that working?
Perfect.
All right, great. So I'll let you take the start on this, Madeline. Just let me know on the flip.
Yeah, so this is just a brief presentation about kind of the expectations, what your life would look like for the next year should the student body elect you. And it really gets into the positives and the negatives that you will experience. So just to get to it, being a Students Union executive, what should you expect?
So yeah, so being an executive is literally one of the best opportunities you could have. I can say it's definitely the best job I think I may ever have in my life. Uh, and as mentioned here, it's recognized globally. If you're a Students Union executive, they know that you're able to handle pressure, that you're a leader, if you can find success in your role. So if you have a story at the end of your term that you can say, this is my legacy, then your future is looking really bright. But it's really important to note that there are risks that you take on when you become an executive. The decisions that you make stay with you for years after you're out of the role. Any decisions you make stay with you. So it's important to note that there is liability with the role.
Yeah, so what do student union executives really do? Which, I mean, all of this, I mean, of course, as you get into the election, it's really exciting. But I know, at least when I was running, I knew kind of the very basic aspects of the job. So that was kind of our intention by hosting this event, that like let people know what they're actually signing up for. So in brief, some of the things that you're doing is managing a near $1 million budget. And that's kind of the first thing you deal with when you become elected is you set your budget for the year. So you hire and manage a staff of 35 to 50 people, and you also take on all of the human resource responsibilities of managing this large staff. So you also have to write and present monthly reports to the Student Representative Council, the University Senate, and the CBU Board of Governors. So you're kind of always writing pages and pages worth of reports. So you have to be very on top of being organized. Like I have a board in my office with each different report that I have to write written. And then as things come up, I write them on there to make sure that they're included in my report. But if you don't have that level of organization going in, you have to try and establish it instantly. Otherwise, you will not be able to handle all these reports. So you also have to help students with new and varying concerns that emerge almost daily. So you'll get emails from students, calls from students 24/7, pretty much. There's lots of stories of executives being called at like 3, 4 in the morning because of a student with a housing concern, etc. And you kind of have to be ready to deal with these things on the fly. You also must perform media interviews and send out press releases for any of the major initiatives that are happening at the Students Union. And like I've said a few times, respond to hundreds of emails, messages, and calls from students, staff, and CBU faculty weekly. So that is a lot to take on.
Okay. Yeah, there's more. So you also are in charge of making sure that the policies of the Students Union are updated. So these are, it's a big task to undertake. So we have to make sure that our documents are up to date. Like it says here, Elections Act, bylaws, administrative policies and procedures. These are all documents that you need to know in and out within your first few, before you starting your term. So for example, Elections Act, with the pandemic hitting, we needed to update the Elections Act to better accommodate, say, for an online election or something. So it's important to note that that you need to be a certain type of person to go in and work on these policy documents. Because if you add one line, you'll realize that this will affect one group of students this way, and then you have to realize how it will affect the other groups and so on. So You'll also have to sit on committees. So for the SRC, for example, to revise those governance documents, as I mentioned, Senate isn't just as simple as going to a meeting once a month. You have to sit on subcommittees, which can sometimes take several hours per week. So it's important to note that in the context of also you're taking classes. Um, for example, on academic committee on Senate, Madeline and I are there every Friday morning at 9 a.m. and sometimes it goes for an hour or two. And it's important that you're there to represent the student voice as well. And also rarely, but sometimes you'll have to sit on committees for the Board of Governors. You'll also have to manage relationships with other student unions, lobbying groups such as Canadian Federation of Students, CFS, and Students Nova Scotia. These groups can be super beneficial to helping you in your advocacy throughout your years. So it's important that you stay in contact with these groups and also meet regularly with government officials to advocate for student interests. And you'll also have to be in contact with our lawyers and our legal team because, when you're going through something like updating governance documents, you need to make sure that you're following the law because, as I said, there's liability with being an executive of a student union. If you make a mistake when you're updating those governance documents, then it can stick with you for years. And plan out and carry out and attend all CBU SU events. So that's really important. For example, in orientation week, we were on our feet for 7 days straight, probably 15 hours per day, just because you have to not only plan these events out, but also attend them and stay afterwards to clean up. So there's a lot involved in that.
Yeah, that's probably one of your busiest weeks of the year. I'm pretty sure I slept for 24 hours the Sunday after orientation week. I was
Yeah.
extremely sick during the week and still had to just push through it because you have sick times, but when you have events, you do not have sick time pretty much.
Yeah.
So.
No.
So some of your responsibilities as a Students Union executive, they are extremely wide-ranging, which it's a major learning experience for your future. So like it says here, you're learning to manage a large budget, you're learning to manage a staff, and being able to do this in your undergraduate degree or whatever other path you may be on at this university is a once-in-a-lifetime experience. And this is looked very, very favorably upon potential positions as you leave university and head out into the quote unquote real world. So there are quite literally thousands of people depending on your capabilities as a leader. There are approximately 5,000 students here at CBU, and all of them are under your leadership. You also have a strong legal responsibility. So we've gone back to this a few times. It's not just while you're on the job, it can and it will follow you for the rest of your life. So I have an example here of a CBU Students Union executive from 2008 had to appear in court for a CBUSU matter in 2015. So that's about 7 or 8 years later and still having to testify in court for something that happened when they were an executive. So that's something to keep in mind. Insurance, liability, and legal repercussions are all matters on your desk daily. That's very serious. And so meetings are recorded most of the time. So your Students Representative Council, your Executive Committee, Board of Governors, Senate, those are all recorded on video and on paper. And everything you say is on the public record and literally can come back to bite you. That is exactly what happened in the legal matter from 2015. So
I think we have more on media later on, I believe. So, yeah, responsibility continued. You will have to make hard choices, and they happen more frequently than you would think. But you have to every decision you make has to be in the best interest of students, not your own personal agenda. You have to look out for all students, and it is important to note that you report to the SRC. The SRC can terminate you if you do not carry out what's in the best interests of students. So, I mean, as tough as it is, that means that you may have to discipline or fire employees. They can be your friends, but in all honesty, you probably should not be hiring your friends for that reason and others. But terminations, they happen almost every single year. For the past 10 years, it's a really difficult decision to have to make, but it's inevitable. It will happen, and it's not easy. And another thing to note, when you're in those meetings with the university officials, as much as you want to maintain those relationships, it can be difficult, and you have to be willing to stand up and fight for the interests of students in meetings like that.
Yeah, and I just also want to add a little bit to that one there that's kind of off script, but there's a really important balance to strike when it comes to what Logan was talking about, where you're managing these relationships, but you're also not completely, like, you have to stand up for students, but you also cannot destroy your relationship with, say, the president of the university. You have to, when you're standing up to fight for what's right, you have to be very respectful. You have to be kind and courteous. You have to be well-spoken and handle what you may be feeling on the inside has to be kept at a minimum. You have to speak on facts, on figures, and argue your point eloquently. You can't stand up and scream at the president of the university is basically what I'm getting at.
Yeah, that's really important, because once you burn those bridges, they're burned forever. And you need those relationships going into this role. They're essential. I mean, even if you may not agree with these people, you need to maintain those relationships. So that's all for that one.
So your work life and student balance. So
is there a balance? No.
Can you find one? I don't know. Haven't figured that one out yet. So how do you get enough or any sleep while doing all of that? Do you ever have to miss classes? And how long are you in your office? So I'm just going to read this one right off the script because I don't think there's any other way to do it. So during the summer months, so from May 1st, when you are sworn into August or into office, we don't swear you into August. August 3rd till August 30th, you will work 40 hours per week, aka 9 to 5, Monday to Friday. Come September, you will work 25 hours per week, and you set these hours yourself for the most part. These hours must be during regular working hours, aka pretty much 9 to 5. If you have to go like 8 to 7, that area is okay, but you want to be here while your staff is here. And sometimes meetings will change your plans. So there are meetings that are regularly scheduled. When Board of Governors sits, they always sit on a Friday at 9 in the morning. So that's a good time to avoid scheduling any classes for. Senate always meets 1:30 on Friday afternoons. And generally committees will pick a time. So be it like Monday morning at 10, they will meet at that time every week. So it's pretty consistent and you kind of have to build your schedule around it. So from September to April, you must also be registered as a full-time student. This means 3 undergraduate courses at a minimum for an undergraduate student, for example. And there's an exception for post-baccalaureate students who are taking their internship, but that's to be discussed with the CRO to work out how that would work for you. You also must remain in good academic standing, at least passing your courses. You must commit to being a student union, or you must commit to being in your students' union office for your working hours and at all events. And you are also not eligible to hold any other job on campus, nor can you be an executive of any society if you are a students' union executive.
And then, yeah, this is the next part that's really important. It's tough to say, but it's the reality. So you have to take care of yourself. Executives experience an extreme amount of mental exhaustion and physical burnout. We've seen that. And especially when September rolls around, like the summer's really great because you don't have those academic responsibilities. But when you're suddenly September rolls around and you're managing your course load and you're managing, all of the previous responsibilities that we mentioned, it's tough, and you have to prioritize your mental health. And also understand that this kind of lifestyle and commitment is not for everyone. Your grades are going to suffer. That's also one of the things that's inevitable with this job. Whether you have to decide yourself whether or not that's worth it to you, but your average is extremely likely to go down as a result of this position. So keeping that in mind, if you aren't already in excellent academic standing, if your grades aren't currently not very high, just keep that in mind when deciding whether or not to run. And also social life on weekends or being being away from work and school. As Madeline said, you can get phone calls at 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the morning. You're on the job 24/7 for the year. Sometimes news breaks on the weekends and they have to be dealt with immediately. And, silence can say a lot. If you do nothing, that says a lot, but also what you say matters. So it's also very important to note that you do only have a maximum of 3 vacation days for the entire year.
So some of the expectations for you, you must fulfill your expected working hours each week. So if this is the summer, you're here 9 to 5, Monday to Friday. If it's the school year, you are here 25 hours a week. Unbiased hiring. You can't just hire your friends. And it's also worth noting that you don't start hiring anybody until you are actually elected, because there are committees to be formed to hire. It's not just you that decides. There's committees of multiple people, sometimes people from in the university for various jobs. So there is a vote on hiring. It's not just, you can't just make the decision. There's a recorded vote. Neutrality, you may not show a public bias for any political ideals or religions, etc. The Students Union is neutral. This will work against you. You must continue to meet all of the requirements of your position. You have to take the right amount of courses. You have to be a CBU student as well as a Students Union member. Otherwise, the SRC will immediately terminate you. This information is checked regularly by our legal counsel, and if something changes and you're no longer eligible for your position, the legal counsel will forward this information to the SRC and they will promptly terminate you. You must also respond quickly and professionally to hundreds of emails weekly.
Yeah, I think that's important about the whole, not showing a public bias. So, because, there are people on all levels of government that you have to interact with. For example, we have a federal liberal government. We have a conservative provincial government, and we regularly meet with all parties. And it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter who you're affiliated with, who you believe is who you vibe with, but you work with all parties to maintain the same goals. There's the media one, right? So sharing your work or attempted lobbying initiatives is with the media is a very effective and exciting tool. So this can allow you to have a further reach within the community and inspire people to join your efforts. But the media can also scrutinize you. It's happened in the past. Every single thing you say or have said in the past, doesn't matter 5 years ago, it's on the record and it can and will be used against you. So you also have to recognize that you can't always prepare effectively for an interview. We've had it happen to us, sometimes questions kind of are intended to throw you off a bit or garner a reaction from you. So, depending on how you react to that, it can say a lot. So you have to be really careful. And if you do have any stage fright, this job isn't for you. Yeah, that's the end of our presentation.
Anyone that has questions, I think we can do it by a raise of hand format, and then we can go through however those appear on our computer screens. There's also no such thing as a bad question, because the description of the job that each and every one of you are potentially interested in taking on is massive. And the reason we say we might have answers is because we may not actually know. They say the day that you actually know the job the most is your last day on the job. So I've often heard from past executives that they felt like they had it all figured out and then the job was over.
Yeah, it goes really quick. I mean, only a few months, Madeline and I will be graduating and heading off to where we're going. I think we're both going to Halifax, so exciting.
Yeah. SMU's Communications.
Hey,
Is that
guys.
Adrian?
Yeah,
Hi,
so
Adrian.
very psyched to have you folks in Halifax. Sorry to kind of join your meeting here. But yeah, guys, looks like you guys had a great presentation. I just had a question for you both. If it's possible, you could send me your presentation and possibly the rule book that you guys have for your candidates. that would be really nice. I actually just looked on the website to see if you guys had anything posted, and I noticed you were having a meeting right now. So I thought I might as well just say hello. But yeah, it'd be great if I could just get a copy of your rules and regulations so I can pass that on to our candidates too.
Awesome. Yeah, we can do that. Yeah. And I'll kind of preface I guess to wrap this up, a lot of the things in this presentation seem terrifying, because frankly, they kind of are. But this job is fantastic. Of course, if you're the right candidate, this should make you scared. If you are not scared of any of the legal risk or insurance liability whatsoever, you're probably the worst person on the planet for this job. If none of this scares you, there is a reasonable risk, and you have to be conscious of that in order to not violate it, if that makes any sense. So a reasonable amount of fear of these things to make sure that you're keeping yourself in check is a good thing.
Yeah, and keep in mind, remember what I said when we first started this meeting. Hands down, this may likely be the best job that I ever had, and I think Madeline feels the same. When we first started in our roles, we heard from executives from 20 years ago, and they still say that this was the best job that they ever had. So don't let this scare you away from don't let that terrifying stuff scare you away from not going for nominations.
There's a question in the chat that I think would be a Mark question, if Mark wants to tackle that one.
Yes, what was the question there, sorry?
I can read it out for you. It's in the chat, but a student asks, can new students run for the presidency too?
So new students, so at CBU, we would like to, I think, what was it? It was 1 year behind you. Yeah.
Yeah, you just have to be an active student at the time of nominations, as well as a students union member. So you can't be someone who's starting school in May. You have to be in school for nominations.
That is true.
So if you're,
go ahead, Logan.
Yeah, no, if you're a new student as of right now, like the January intake, then you are a student at the time of nominations, so you would be eligible.
Right. And also one quick note, for if you are running for a president or executive vice president, you will need to be a full-time student in the 2 semesters that you will serve in the fall and the winter. So we are electing positions, or we will be electing for president and executive vice president in a couple weeks' time. Those people will serve from May of this year until whereabouts May of the next year, 2023. So for the fall semester starting September 2022, and for the winter semester starting 2023, you need to be a full-time CBU student. So that is enrolled in at least 3 courses per semester. Just thought I'd throw that out there.
Another for you here, Mark, and it says any expected date for nominations and something about the nominations process.
Right. So nominations will open on Monday, which is the first day of classes, January 17th. Nominations, basically the process is if you're interested in picking up a nomination form, or if you're interested in running, send me an email. My email, Mandy, if you can put my email in the chat, that would be awesome. My email will be in the chat, so if you want to reach out to me if you're interested in running, definitely send me an email. And basically, when nominations start, I will host a meeting with you to determine your eligibility. And after I deem that you're eligible, you will be given a nomination form. So the nomination form has a number of details on it. So it just basically says your name, what seat you are running for, the name of your executive vice president who's running along with you, and there's another part where you have to obtain signatures. So a candidate is not eligible to be voted for if they do not have signatures, and you need 75 signatures to be qualified to run for president and executive vice president. So when you are going around and getting signatures in person, we would let people go around the university and ask people face-to-face for signatures, but that's not how we're doing things because of the numbers of COVID-19 in Nova Scotia. We will be doing things on an online format. So I will be finalizing the exact nominations procedure today and tomorrow. So by Monday, if you want to pick up your nomination form, or if you have any questions, I will have a full answer for you then. But yeah, basically, you would reach out to people that you know, or people who have supported you, or people who you think might support you, and you'd ask them for their signature. And if you get 75, then you are eligible to run for president and vice president. So yeah, that's the gist of the nomination procedure. I hope it's not too confusing. It can be a little bit much sometimes. You might be thinking, well, 75 signatures, that's a lot. But you have a week to do it. Nominations close on, I believe, the 24th, I heard today. So you have over a week to get those done. So yeah, 75 signatures shouldn't be too much of a big deal in 1 week. So, all right. Thank you for your question.
I can add a tiny little bit to that. So something that has actually changed in the Elections Act is that the nomination form will be created by the CRO. So Mark will be creating your election form. Once you've met with him and are approved as a candidate, he will share this with you, and it will continue to be shared with him so that he can monitor for irregularities or any other Elections Act violations. And so he will have constant access to that form. Rahul, yes. It's like for the two. So last year, when Logan and I had to collect our signatures, we collected them together. So there will be one form for the whole slate, and that form will also be shared with the CRO at all times. The signatures have to be students, and those students must be Students Union members. And the form is also audited by Mark and the elections committee. So if they're finding any irregularities, they will be emailing people to verify that they've actually signed for you. So fake signatures will be caught.
It's also important to note that candidates are responsible for having a good knowledge of the Elections Act. So if you're intending to run in the election, know that inside and out. Of all those governing documents that I mentioned before, at the very start, have a very good understanding of the Election Act as it's written.
Yeah, and in addition to that, should you be nominated for the president or vice president role, you will be given a copy of the Elections Act by me prior to the start of campaigning. I very much encourage you to know that document as well as you can. I don't want to give out any demerit points or assess any infractions. It's sometimes tough to do, but just know that if there are any infractions, we will take the steps necessary to ensure a level playing field. So that being said, please get familiar with the Elections Act when I hand it out.
To top that off with some Canadian legal jargon, ignorance is never a defense in Canada. So you can never say, well, I didn't read it. So.
Exactly.
You and your lawyer talk.
Anything else? If there's no other questions, we'll probably just hang out here until it's 3:15 now. We'll hang out till about 3:20.
There's another question, few questions there.
Yeah, same question there. So
same question, yeah.
election dates. Mark, if you want to talk a bit about that, whatever you want.
Yeah, certainly. The date of the election, so the 2 voting days are currently scheduled for Monday, February 7th and Tuesday, February 8th. So those are the 2 days where students will vote for the president and vice president role.
Andy?
I think we also should mention about the SRC seats because there are some people not comfortable running for president and executive vice president. So SRC seats might be something that you are interested into.
Yeah, 100%. And SRC also outranks the president and vice president. So
They do.
you are literally higher up in the institution. Yeah, so like I said, we'll hang out here for like 5 or so more minutes if anyone has any questions or. If not, thank you for joining us, and we hope to see as many slates as possible in the election. And Shubi, what are SRC seats? That is essentially the board of the Students Union. So I report to the board, as does every other executive. You provide reports to them, and they can also sanction you if you are doing something incorrectly in your role. So they, at any given time, they can terminate you from your position. Yeah, that's pretty much it. They are the top. They make financial decisions that exceed $10,000. Yeah, that's about it.
So get out there and pick up your nomination forms when it opens.
Yeah, and like I was talking about earlier, the SRC has a seat for everyone. It's representational of different schools. So like there's a seat for the School of Arts and Social Sciences, for the nursing school, etc. Everything has a seat to represent it, and only students that are in that school are eligible to vote for it. So like say the varsity athlete seat is only eligible to be elected by varsity athletes. Thanks, Rahul.
Yeah. Well, thank you,
Thanks.
Maya.
Yeah, the SRC also is responsible for approving literally everything that you do. So it forms committees to review, like say the bylaws, the Elections Act, and then the entire committee also, or the entire council gets to say yes or no, or yes, but on the terms that you make these edits to the document. So some things that we've presented included like the Virtual Elections Act, and that had to go through the SRC, and yeah, they approve literally everything. It's a very powerful board.
It's a pretty fun council to sit on.
Yeah. Yeah, and we have fun. Like, I know, like, I keep thinking, like, when I was writing this presentation with Logan, we were like, this is kind of terrifying, but at the same time, like, you have so much fun in your role. But yeah, you just have to be conscious of all the things that we talked about. The more you know, the less likely you are to make mistakes, like knowing the legal policies and whatnot. As long as you're aware of it, it's a lot easier to avoid things. It's easier to break rules that you don't know. So.
Well, I don't see anything else coming up in the chat, so I think probably good to head out. But you can always reach out to Mark if you're wondering about any information about the election, or if you're interested about hearing about you know what our role, more about our roles and what we do. Feel free to reach out to myself or Matt. Well, for as long as she's still another 24 hours.
Still reach out to me though, because in my new role, I'll still be able to liaise between the union and government relations for students. So I'm still fighting the good fight.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you all for attending. If there's any last minute questions, throw up your hand while I give a little exit spiel. So again, thank you for your interest in this event and the election in general. It's great to see so many people here. We're hoping to see as many slates as possible because that's what makes a good election, a good debate. That's also a part that you will have to prepare for a debate during the campaign. So develop a platform. That's really important. Don't just run to run. Know why you want to run. That's very important. So
research.
You just reminded me of a certain teacher that we had in grade 9.
Really? Which one? Oh, no, I guess you don't want to. Yeah.
Well, thank you all for being here and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thanks so much, everyone. Oh, you're on mute there, Mark.
Oh, I was just about to say thank you for coming. Sorry about that.
All right. Do you want to stop the recording there, Mandy?